Now, what I want you to do is to look at how you would create your altar for doing some of this more interesting work of making things happen. Because up until now, we've just been interested in what? Keeping things at bay and doing some general blessings on people. But now someone says to you, hey, you can pass these around. See about the size. See, it's just made out of cardboard, right? Make it out of whatever you want. Make it out of cloth, make it out of wood, make it out of stone. Do it whatever you want. Make it any size. It's a triangle. Now, in his book, Hex and Spellwork, Carl Hare, some people have asked if I am Carl Hare, and the answer is no, I am not, gives an interesting practice called the wishing cup, which is basically a variation of the magic cauldron, the horn of plenty. I've seen variations of this. His is probably the cleanest. That's why I'm going to give it to you. Okay? When you do this, you want your altar set up this way. You want your triangle. And I've done this with black with white lining, by the way. You don't have to, but that's nice if it helps you know the boundaries of it. A candle at each corner. They can be tall, they can be beeswax, they can be whatever you like. You can keep those out there if people need them. You have a Bible. Of course, there are some practitioners who use another book. And with that, you can have your dagger if you have it, but it doesn't need to be there. You have the object which you wish to bless. Now, traditionally, what would this be is a cup, a chalice, horn of plenty, as we said, a cauldron like this. I like the small brass ones myself, a brass one of about this size. I prefer that. Pick whatever you want. This is just for show as a space holder. Okay? It is best if the person you're making it for gives it to you. You see that, how I give you stuff? Now, if someone wants you to do something for them, they need to take part of this. So they've got to, here is this, help me with it. Some people won't make these for other people, for reasons we're about to show. But I do encourage you to make one for yourself. Okay? Now, you wash it out. Again, the magic number 3 times. You put a little oil in there. Remember, oil and water, or water and oil. Okay? We've cleansed it. Now we sanctify it and bring it to bounty. And Hare gives the following prayer, which again, this is good. Excuse me. O Lord, who has made all things in the name of Jesus Christ, who said that if one had the faith of a grain of mustard seed, they would be able to do great things. I pray that this cup that I hold, because you're holding it, be blessed and consecrated to the use of blank, so that through thy bountiful graces, she or he should receive all those things that she may desire, he, and amen. Now, it's very good, if you spend time on that, you don't just kind of bless it and hand it off. As we said, visualizing the energies and holding it there. I would tend to do this privately and then wrap it up and give it to them at another time. I would not do it in front of them. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That is a strong personal bias I have. Do things in private. Okay? Do it in private, get it done, then hand it off later. If people see, they know too much. And the more they know, the easier it is to doubt. And just as a seed of faith, like a mustard seed, is a key to success, a seed of doubt can undo what you've done. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay? Do it in private. Do it at your leisure. Do it when you're in the best place. And then wrap it up and hand it off. Now, then you hand it off to them. They take it in both hands, and away you go. Now, the method which I generally use also involves Psalms. Psalms 23 and 24. And of course, you'll see that they're ideal for this work, and yet at the same time, they seem to bear no resemblance at all to what you're trying to do. That's okay. Just use them and be good with it. If not, you need to find a suitable substitute. Okay. The point is, after you've done this, I would ask you to practice with it. That's why I tell you to make one for yourself. This is not the one I use again. This is just for practice, for show. Okay? I told you last time we were here, about doing work for other people and everything. I did a series of operations for 3 different people. This is what I used. Now, what you do is you make your talisman or your ritual prayer. Talisman is best. Make a sigil, a talisman that represents the works. This is where you have to be an artist and be creative here. That represents the thing you want done. You have to write their name on it, their date of birth, and where they're located. You don't have to, but that's just tradition, okay? And then you anoint it with oil with your thumb, and you ignite it. And the idea is that as it burns, you are convinced that it's carrying your wishes forward. Now, make sure that your paper actually burns up to an ash. You don't want any pieces left over. So, feel free to go liberally with the olive oil or anointing oil, whatever you're using. That also means make sure the bowl is big enough so that we don't have the flaming scene like we saw on our introduction. I cannot stress how important some of these practices are, particularly these seem very small and insignificant. You will find if you work with it again and again, it is not small and insignificant whatsoever. And this altar setup is one which I want you to use repeatedly. Some of you may recognize it, okay? Yes?
Supposing you're using this not for another person but for yourself, do you put your current name and location in there?
You may at the first few times if you want, but it's for yourself, so you don't have to. Some of these are just memory devices to trick ourselves. If someone said, why do I do that? And I said, because you know why? There's a time when someone was doing this, they said, but how many John Jameses are there over in the city and wherever? Okay, then put that in the data. Yeah. Convince yourself. But that's really what it's coming to at that point. It's a convincing of yourself that everything is going in the right direction. Now, one of the other things to do is, and you don't see too many people talk about this, is a way around all of this was instead of making multiple talismans, is that after you had enough experience, you would make a single talisman for all work. Okay? But you have to be able to come up with a single talisman that represents your conceptualization of your relationship to this whole cosmic thing. Okay? So that takes a little bit of work to really get that down. So practice, 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 and you'll see as you do that, you'll be able to reduce it and synthesize it and get more productive more quickly. But this is the setup that you want. It is good to have your Bible there. You should have it open to either the Psalms that you're reading or to the Gospel of John in general. Those are the ones that are often kept. Now, that is the creating of a bond through magic, just as we created a bond more or less with the strings. One of the other things we have to look at is breaking bonds. And that's what defensive magic in many ways is about, breaking the bonds. But here's something I'm going to share with you, because I think some of you may have an interest in it. Buried in the Philosophers of Nature Kabbalah course is a paragraph about that big of a practice that you have to do during the tail of the dragon. You're generally done with your back against a tree. And in fact, when it's done, you kind of have a small drum with you to kind of bang on this tom-tom kind of thing. You might find a dharmaru works equally well. You know what a dharmaru is, everyone? That might equally well. And listen closely as I read it out to you. This is how it goes from right to left, which is the way Hebrews read, right to left. So it goes this way. From right to left. Shin, write it down. Shin, Aleph, Tet, Vav, Nun. Second word, Tet, Yud, Resh, Vav, and Beth.
I'm sorry, what's the last letter?
Beth.
Second to the last, R-U-A-C-H, what's that?
Shin, Aleph, Tet, Vav, Nun, Tet, Yod, Resh, Vav, Beth.
Oh, right.
And it's up here if you want to take a look. Now, I asked a rabbi who was also an exorcist if he was familiar with this. And he said these were interesting because these were archaic words that didn't appear in any of the standard lexicons. And that the best he could understand them as is that they were, it was the notion of contempt of the enemy camp. And he said what this means is this is a ward-breaking spell. You're doing this to break magical defenses. He goes, that's what this is for.
So you do it with your back against the tree and the drum,
Yeah, usually seated on the ground.
and you vibrate it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian has an interesting story of something similar he did long ago.
Which one?
Now, because just as there are other defenses, you need some of your own. And sometimes you don't have enough time to make one. So you'll find sometimes, we write them down on cloth and everything. And other ways to use the magic lasso of Wonder Woman. Well, okay, it's not Wonder Woman's magic lasso, but I can dream. So, and spread it out quickly. You have to have a portable magic circle of some kind. And it's always made out of red.
What's the length of it?
What?
Does the length matter?
The length should be, well, you're going to need 27 feet. Because it'll be long enough. It'll be long enough. You don't want it small. And you want to be able to spread it out, especially if there's other people with you. Which
Well,
helps.
to be able to sleep in it.
Or sleep in it, really, for real. Okay? Don't do that alone, or do that alone, just don't do it often. Okay? Maybe Brian will tell us his stories tomorrow. Now, the other thing that I want to share with you that's good is using the triangle is also for scrying. Now, you either love mirrors or you hate them. Magic mirrors, often in this school, are made out of standard silver mirrors. Okay? And then what they'll do is you'll do some engravings on them, or you do some painting on them, or other woodwork around them. And it's pretty standard stuff. It's not exceptional. Okay? But one of the things that you can do, which I found is really cool, is a friend of mine years ago had pointed this out to me, is he said he liked black magic mirrors, because it was easier. You didn't get that reflection that was distracting. I said, but how do you do with the symbols? And he said, it's really simple. I just,
Oh.
transparencies.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a nifty little trick.
Yeah. And do it in black, but put it on your silver one too if you have a normal mirror. Okay? Yeah. Because a lot of this, remember, it is tricking. We're tricking our minds into seeing things so that our nervous system kicks in so that we can perceive things that we normally don't perceive. You know, a lot of this is dog and pony show for ourselves, and that's okay. That's okay. Okay, and some of it isn't. I thought some of you might like that. That works really well. Yeah.
I didn't get the purpose of the square.
Oh, it's a magic square. This is a magic square of Saturn, which we use all the time. You know, so like this would be good for a Saturn meditation on Saturday.
Okay.
You know, and you might want to have for each day. It'll be for each of the 7 planets. You know. Yeah.
Where did you get that black mirror? That's really nice.
This was a gift, but you can get them. Amazon.
Oh, that's a good idea.
They're actually relative. You can get them up to your inch and centimeter reference.
If you can make one, it's better. You know, it really is. Then you can, you know, getting the like, depends on what you're using. Like I know people use like some kind of tar pitch.
Yeah, right for that.
Yeah, for the black and getting it to smooth out and be.
Right, yeah, the clock face thing is good if you like your convex, concave
Yeah.
shape, which I find important.
Yeah, but if you're going to do that, that's what you're doing it for.
Yeah.
If it's just flat, might as well just go with the silver one. But the convex concave really helps. So
Right.
you want to experiment. Again, you either love mirrors or you hate them. That's just the way it is. Okay. Oh, you know who else you can? Amazon will have them, and usually they're ordering them from Azure Green up in Massachusetts, or I think they're in Massachusetts. Yeah. Usually getting them from there. Okay. Now, other stuff. We don't have a lot of operations where you do stuff over and over and over again. Most of the stuff is done fairly quickly. What? But say there's something incredibly important to you. I mean, this is it. This matters more to you than anything else in the whole wide world. This is the operation that they do. You have to repeat this 99 times, and it's long. And you do this for 2 or 3 days straight. Could you get away with 1 day? Maybe. I think given the nature of these things, 3 is probably the best, okay? Because how many of you did the Liturgy of Hermes? Yeah. And you know that there's accumulation. Something happens after a certain point. So 3 days is usually the best for this.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Are you saying that's 99 times a day, or
Yes,
you
a
do
day.
70
A day.
hours?
99 times a day for 3 days. Yeah, this is it. You know, I mean, it's a lot of stuff. It better be important to you because it's a lot of work. You know. Okay, I want to get moving on something here. That's why we're going to do this. I want to skip ahead. I got so much here. As you know, I always have more than I can cover. I'm sorry about that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We were talking about the vortical circles. It's got to be more to it than you just have a big red string and lay it out on the ground and go, yeah, it's like.
You consecrate the rope ahead of time.
Well, what particular method do we use? I mean, obviously it's going to like last forever.
Yeah,
You just throw it in the trunk of your car.
I usually burn mine after I use it.
You make a new one.
I make a new one.
But, you know, you can't throw it in the trunk of your car. If you run into that situation often, you might want to have it in the trunk, like your jack, you know. Okay, my kids go, what's in your trunk, Daddy? Well, I got the first aid kit, I got a jack, I got a spare tire, and then there's the bag they don't look in. Okay.
I got that. Any particular consecrations that you recommend?
Well, I think we'll get over that some future time. I got some other stuff I want to do. I just want to say, my point to you is that there's a variety of, if you're creative and begin to think creatively after you have experience, okay, then there's some things you can begin to solve problems. And we often think of the magic circle in this very fixed way, okay, in that it has to be this. Or we think about it in terms of very elaborate rituals that have to be that. what I'm just trying to show you here loosely is that it's not always that way, okay? So you don't need the ritual circle for that. You don't need this, but I'm just trying to get you to think in terms of, in the folk magic, anything became a tool if you thought of it in the right fashion, okay? Yeah. Magic daggers, I talked about them, and that example I gave you is from the Key of Solomon, okay? You can find it in there. It's made, again, I say do it on a Wednesday, okay? Do it on a Wednesday. Now, what you also then need is something to empower your ritual dagger and tools with, using the laws of sympathy. And that is Lodestone. Now, here's the ritual. By the way, this is all you do for that dagger. I mean, you have it set up like this. This isn't here, okay? You have the dagger here, and you say, I, your name, conjure thee, sword or knife, as well as all other weapons, that by spear which pierced Jesus' side, it opened it to the gushing out of blood and water, that he keep me from injury as one of the servants of God. Sign of the cross 3 times, amen. That's simple. No more elaborate than that. You see the relationship. It's you're covering all your bases. I, okay, your name, conjure thee, spirit of the sword or knife. I conjure you. You're talking to it as if it's, something as a person. And all other weapons. See, now we're covering all bases. All weapons, visible and invisible. Okay? By that spear, okay, which pierced the side of Jesus' side and opened it to the gushing out of blood and water, that he keep me safe from injury as one of the servants of God. So I'm safe. These powers I invoke into you, and I'm safe from all injury and harm. Why? Because I'm a servant of God, and God is the Most High, so you're not going to screw with one of God's servants. Okay? Amen. And we'll sign of the cross 3 times. Amen. Okay? Now, we also have is, this I've never given out because I only have a little bit, so you're truly lucky. This is Lodestone. You always keep that near your dagger when you consecrate it. Some keep it with it. That's up to you. People will often carry it with them all the time. You put it in your pocket or purse or in your bag.
Should the Lodestone be consecrated?
It doesn't have to be. Things like that, natural items like that, use them in and of themselves. Like the vervain, it's interesting. I mean, you use it in its natural state. And you'll drop it in oil or water or something. You don't do anything to it. It's considered a de facto consecration of the object itself, probably because it's in its natural state. It's uncontaminated, if you will, unworked. Okay, I think that's the general idea behind it. Yeah, I think as those of you who have maybe didn't get a chance to listen to our last presentation, often, again, you get, when you're asked to do a healing or you're asked to help someone, rarely is it the kind of situation where you get a chance to, I got to prepare. It happens spontaneously and at the moment, and you have to have the wits about you to be able to adapt to the circumstances put before you, which is why you need to know principles, not just formula. Okay? I mean, it's like, I've always said that probably one of the greatest adepts of the 20th century would be Bruce Lee. A fellow who never taught forms, only principles. And, his philosophy was that of an adept in terms of personal discipline, mental training, spiritual perspective. I mean, it was quite impressive. And yet he added to the system. It wasn't just limited. He added to it as well, what he got. And, you look at someone like him who overcame considerable handicaps. I mean, his one leg was 2 inches shorter than the other. He had terrible vision. You wouldn't know it. His emphasis wasn't even on fighting skills. It was on physical fitness, saying, if you have physical fitness, then the fighting will come easier. But if you have the fighting skills but no fitness, you're done for. So he was looking at things very naturally, very logically, And if you look at his philosophy, just the way he kept his disciplined mind in terms of only focusing on the goals he wanted to achieve, not worrying about objections from other people, recognizing that his subconscious mechanism was a goal-achieving mechanism, and that he was in control of his life, no one else, and that he would achieve his goals, and in a harmonious way. I mean, clearly he was. Why was he able to do that? Well, he was wonderfully charming. How many martial artists have you met that are charming? Very few. And it's just what we were just talking about at break. Okay?
Santos somewhat.
What?
I said Santos somewhat.
Yeah.
He tells some pretty good stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? He had to have the ability to work with people and to deal with human beings where they were at. And a lot of, he didn't need. What do you have to prove to anyone?
Mostly to himself. I think the whole situation too, like the story with him and Hitman, he was not even allowed to train out front because he was only half blood. So it was one of those things where, I mean, there's the cultural issues really hit him as well.
Right. And the thing is with the training there is, again, he's troubled over there and he's troubled over here. But he just focuses on what he wants to achieve.
And it seems to be a good crucible for a lot of people too. If you've had lifelong troubles, they kind of light a fire under you.
They either do that or they turn you into someone who people don't want to be around. And he knew that. He's just going to stay goal oriented, and they were goals that were clearly what other people would he support and could get behind. In which again, his charm and charisma was able to bring that to him.
Absolutely.
And that's what that's that forces of Netzach that I talked about, of Eros. Cultivating that. That's the power of magic. Eros and Magic and the Renaissance by Culiano. Everything's revealed to you in there. Everything. It's that simple. But so you look at how are these social relationships going. Okay? But you can look around you and see lots of great adepts, if you want, in the world. They just don't wear funny robes and belong to local fill-in-the-blank lodges. They're not, touting how wonderful they are to you. You look at their examples in their lives. And that's kind of the thing that's I find most important is how do you see these kind of lay practitioners, these non-professionals that use this to really move their lives forward and be helpful to others. And they all have a lot of the same things in common in terms of perspective, personal responsibility, relationships to others. Again, creating the environment that helps them achieve their goals, which is what you came to magic for anyhow. That's what the ritual is about. The ritual is about creating an environment that helps you achieve a goal. So better achieve it. Okay? Now, you have your magic knife, you have your introduction to Psalms, you have your wishing cup or magic vessel, if you will. You have basic talismans and amulets of all sorts. I've given you some examples of what else to do with a mirror. And I think that here, and this is something too, these are the fortune-telling cards from my great aunts. One of the old original Normand's decks, the gypsy cards, the original ones. They're making a return now. There's quite a few books out now, but there's a time when you couldn't find anything on these, The instructions are in German and English, And here's something. This is pre-tarot. There weren't tarot really cards. weren't big at this time. This was very, very common. A deck of cards. See the Sphinx on the back? Sphinx, right? But you see standard playing cards, but with fortune-telling possibilities on the edges. You see? Yeah. So if you want to go old school, this is what you do. Get rid of your tarot cards and really go old school. Confuse them, okay? Yeah, call Webster's, yeah. Uh-oh. That's so 20th century. Yeah. Now, that being said, if there's a lot of things I haven't covered. I'll cover a little more tomorrow because I know you're getting tired and it's warm in here. But if you want to look to additional things, geomancy was an important part of the practices. Astrology, I don't need to go over that with you because you have other sources. But for example, geomancy wasn't necessarily always that complicated. Some of it was really just, I saw folks who worked with old editions of Hartman's. Okay? Very simple kind of stuff. Straightforward. Make your dots. Actually, what we do is you'd gaze on a blue circle to induce a hypnotic state. Make your dots. Odd, even, odd, even. Get your, look it up. That was a very common way of doing geomancy. It wasn't big, wasn't complicated, but you can do it. Astrology. A lot of astrology was used, particularly, birth charts, but also some mundane astrology. I'd encourage you to give your hand at that. It's not as difficult as it seems, but you do really have to kind of pay attention. A lot of interesting material is covered in, besides the Red Church, but also in this book, Baker's book. There's very little difference between these two. In fact, many of the rituals, the charms are the same, because they come out of the same lines. Okay? And he has a whole section on here in geomancy and some on astrology that's quite good for you. Oh, he has a nice edition of the Abracadabra amulet right here. Okay? And philosophically speaking, I really encourage you to spend some time with the Arbitel. I'll go over this again tomorrow. But the Arbitel really is a philosophy of magic that will really help you achieve things and understand things that many of these other books do not, because they don't have a real philosophy behind them. They're more technical books or workbooks. But this is about understanding your place in the cosmos. And without that proper understanding, remember, everything that you get at the outcome is based upon what you put in at the beginning in terms of self-perception. Okay? This can help you have a very... Now, it is monotheistic. It is Christian-based. Let's just say it's monotheistic, okay?
Whose translation would you recommend?
This one of the Arbitel?
Yeah.
Just use Peterson. He's the best. Really, just go with Peterson, then you don't have to worry. His commentary and notes are always quite good, okay? What's nice here is that you begin to notice the philosophical view that unfolds. And I'm just going to read a quick one for you before we go off on some other things here. But when we talk about collecting spirits, which is part of some of these practices, people say, I don't want to collect. Well, the use of conjuration is for the very few. It's for the very few. You don't have to do it. Don't feel compelled to. Because you do it anyhow. You just don't know it. Now you do. And what he says here, the magus is one for whom the spiritual essences serves to reveal the knowledge of the whole world and of nature, whether visible and invisible, through divine grace. This definition of magic applies broadly and universal. So magic is about the spiritual essences that are constantly being revealed. Nothing becomes a person as much as his words and deeds agreeing. Remember what I said earlier? Your words and deeds agreeing. And as his like delights in like, nobody is more happy than such, because the sacred angel stays close to them and protects them. On the other hand, avoid a person with no consistency or stability who blows around like a dry leaf. As each person chooses to lead his life, so will he attract the kinds of spirits which have a similar nature and quality. So as you choose to lead your life, you will attract those spirits to you of a similar nature and quality. That's it. The ritual is just to help push you in the direction you want to go. Whoever is constant and devoted to his vocation will also have constant, devoted spirit companions who will supply all the desired success. But if you have some understanding of magic, they will not hesitate to show themselves and engage in friendly conversation with you and serve in ways which are appropriate to their nature and offices. The good ones doing good things and causing gain, and of course evil ones causing loss and harm. So it's saying, do your duty. Whatever it is you do, do it well, and you will naturally bring to you those things which can help and assist you, both visible and invisible. And finally, all magic is the revelation of that class of spirit of which nature the magic is. So have the 9 muses been assigned to the 9-fold magic. Gracious reader, observe with their own eyes and mind the sacred and secular histories that what happens every day in the universe, and see you will perceive that the world is full of magic with their dual sciences for good and evil. If you learn to see, you see it always happening all around you at all times. These energies are constantly moving, revealing and hiding, and we are open to the perception and seeing it and then forgetting it and seeing it and reminding ourselves of it. And the whole host of beings exist which can aid us in our work if we just open to them. And that's what, in that sense, the offerings are about. Recognizing that what is immediately present before us rather than something distant in the future. Now I know you're tired, so I will let this go then for today. We'll meet again tomorrow at 10 a.m. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. It's 4:15, so.
That passage about the spirits reminded me of the passage in the Corpus Hermeticum where the Muse says to Hermes that for the righteous man he's with them everywhere, but for the impious man he gives him over to the avenging spirit who pushes him to further acts of impiety. It makes me think kind of like what you were saying about the spirits, how the spirits become a reflection of the consciousness of the practitioner.
It can be no other way. Because we exist in an environment. I mean, this is the unfortunate truth, in this book. I mean, I noticed it from my own life experience. I noticed it from where I work and where I travel and things. Working with various troubled populations. What are the common factors? I talk to other people who have done, investigations and things. What do you say? I said, let me ask you a few questions. I'm just asking, and that's how I got the answers. I didn't ask them. I said, when you go into a place that's haunted, let me guess, is it always a mess? Yeah. It rarely is it clean. Why do we say cleanliness is next to godliness? I don't want you to be, nuts about it. Although, feel free to come and vacuum my house any day. But we can begin to perceive, again, everything is a representation. You have to look, when I walk into someone's house and I look at the art that's on the walls and things, that's something we tell what their ideals are. And then I have to say, do those ideals match what they're telling me they want their life to be? See, I'm not judging the ideals. I'm just judging, do they match? You understand? And if they are, then fine. But if they're not, I can tell you what the problem is. You're conflicted. You're going too many different ways. That's why you have to pick your artwork, pick your clothes, pick your designs, pick your tattoos, according to what your ideal and desired outcomes are. That's all. I said, I don't tell you not to do it. I just tell you think very carefully about it before you do it. Same as anything. Is this going to, what are the cause and effect? And then if you're good with it, be 100% into it. That's the other thing. Once you're in, you're in. And I told you that story, I'll tell you again. A psychiatrist, he did a study. He found out that by the late 50s, psychoanalysis was not working.
Wow.
And he said, why is this? Why is this not working? And then he looked at the population in the United States and Europe in the 1950s, early 60s, and who that population was that was taking psychoanalysis. And then he looked at the original case studies, Freud in that period. He says, really very simple. He says, if you look at the Victorian population, they had terribly strong willpower. Okay? Now what that meant is that once they made the decision, they stuck to it. Okay? So their, we'll call it goal-seeking mechanism, their subconscious, once it accepted an idea, it held to it. That was it. Okay? So it took a lot of time to break through that and get the new idea in. Once it was in, the change was done. Newer population, very easy. You got quick change, but it didn't stay. You know, that's why we put so much emphasis on, I don't like to use the word willpower, but that's what it is, we'll talk about it, which being consistency and choice. Consistency and choice and full agreement and choice. Meaning, you know, well, if you're in full agreement, then you're going to be consistent. There it is, it's done. But look at how easy, things become so easy that it begins to have no value. We say easy come, easy go. I used to see it all the time. I knew a young woman who made a fortune as a stripper. And I mean, you've seen pictures of her. She was famous. Okay? I guarantee it. A fortune. Easy come, easy go. I knew women who made fortunes as expensive call girls. There was no retirement plan there. Gone. And rule of thumb, almost everyone who applies it, almost everyone who wins the lottery is broke within 5 years or less. A friend of mine is an investment banker, he said, oh, he hates them. All the worst ones are like people who win big at the casino get the lottery, they're the worst. Because, you know, $1 million is a lot of money, but it's not that much money. That's a joke, you know? Because if you actually wanted to make your work your lifetime, you know, you've got to look at these investments and how you're planning it out across your lifetime. You see these groups burn through it. So again, that's where consistency comes in. Long-term thinking, long-term planning, call it karma, call it cause and effect, I don't care. It's all really very simple. And all these rituals do is help you focus to get it done. First you tap into some stuff in here, in your own brain pan, in your own subconscious. And then with that, it begins to echo out, and then you start connecting to these energetic patterns around you, and then who knows where else. But it's just that simple, it really is. Well, great. Look, let that be the end for today. We'll hang out for a bit, relax, answer any questions. But I appreciate your attention. I know this was very difficult to keep focused all this time. I know it was. So I will see you, well, see some of you tonight. We'll see all of you tomorrow. And if you're not going to be here, please let me know, and I'll wish you a good trip home, okay? So thank you.
Thank you.